Thank you for waiting. My name is Bob Miller, and I'm the manager of the Roll-to-Roll team with IT Supplies. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. This webinar is now the second in an educational series that we are calling RIP Week. Today we are joined by Bruno Ayala, a RIP specialist with Caldera. Before we get started, I would like to mention that all attendees will be muted throughout the webinar to reduce background noise. During the webinar, we encourage you to make notes of any questions that you may have. At the end of the presentation, we will hold a Q&A session, and at that time, feel free to type whatever questions you have in the presenter's chat box. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Bruno. Over to you, Bruno.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. So guys, thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I will start to talk to you about Caldera. And the first thing that I wanted to show you guys is our architecture and how we work. So first of all, Caldera works for Linux and Mac, which is a great thing because you don't have to worry about window crashes and drivers and stuff like that, and upgrades and paid upgrades. So here in Mac and Linux is a very stable system. We don't have crashes, this kind of stuff. And we also work in this architecture that I'm showing to you right now. It's called master-slave architecture. So this is how Caldera works. We have the master computer here, where you have the dongle, for example. And for two purposes, you can have slaves, as many as you wanted. First, to split the processing. So imagine now that we have here 5 machines, so we may have 10 machines, even more, and to have all that in one RIP processing out for all 10 machines at the same time, it just gets slower. So to avoid that, at Caldera you can install it slaves, and as you can see here, master is controlled by 2 machines processing for these 2 machines, and the first slave is processing for 1 machine, and the second slave for the other 2 machines. Just install it Caldera, and then you can do it anytime for free, as many slaves as you want it. Or you have the second possibility that if you wanted to the slave one, for an example, be exactly as a master and have all the features that you can see master, like creating ICC profile, compose, and all the features that I will present it to you, you just need to add a license called visual user, and then your slave becomes like a master. You can do anything that a master can do it. But you just need to add a license. You don't need to add another dongle. So with one dongle on the master computer, you can manage as many slaves as you want. And with also another advantage that now Caldera just released version 11. So for all V10 users, you just needed to upgrade the master computer, and all the slaves will be upgraded too. You don't need to pay for like 10 or 11 upgrades. If you have 10 stations and you have 10 dongles and you have the probability of losing one of the 10 dongles or 2 dongles, so in Caldera you don't have any of this problem. So the bigger you become, the cheaper it is. So this architecture is a pretty good architecture. It works pretty well and saves you time, money, makes it everything much faster. So this is our software is based in this architecture. So now I will present to you a little bit software. So here we are. Here we have Caldera. We have these 2 main windows here. This is the image bar and this is the application bar. The image bar is where your images are, where you imported all the images. It will be here, and you have different tabs here. You can have as many tabs as you want. Just right-click here and create a new tab. You name it. You can have 1 tab for each machine, for an example, to make it easy to control it. Then we have the main features here. Everything is in Caldera is pretty easy, just drag and drop. So if you wanted to have a preview of the machine, of your image, just drag and drop on your desktop or just double click it. And then you can have a preview, shows you the CMYK values. If you have also spot colors, it shows you the composition. And then you have the zoom tools. You can crop it if you want it. So I wanted to crop this area, for an example. And then you can copy it here, and then it shows in your image bar here again. So it makes it easy for you to print this area. You just don't need to start working on the file again. Then you can, if you wanted to mark any file as done, for an example, so you control all your done files, and then you can see here all the done files, the undone files, all files, and you can search here for Pantone, for an example, and then have all Pantone's file here, for an example. So if you have your print order as your file name, then it's easy for you to search for N files here. So now that we're done here, you can, to print an image is so easy, just drag and drop again the image for any of your printers, or just double click in your printer, and then you just can drag and drop the file here, and just easy as that. To open a file, you go to File Man, and then you can open any files you wanted. Plus, we have a optional here, that is our pre-flight. Here at Caldera, we can pre-flight the file from the RIP. So we don't need any offline tools. We have some offline tools. There is some offline tools for that, but if you use it inside the RIP, it's much easier, faster. Just click here, and then it shows you a report on how the file is, and it shows you, okay, the file is okay. It's green. There's no problems found. It shows you which the document creator, how many colors do you have. If you have a red sign here, then you have any problems, maybe a file without ICC, maybe an RGB image. So if you have any problem with file, it shows you right here. So it's prevent you from start working with the file, do a lot of work with the file, then starts to printing, and then you find out that you have an RGB image, for example, and that the print's not okay. Then you have to go back and redo everything again. So here's just easy way to report any file that you wanted to see if you have some problems or not. Once you do that, just open a file. You can open as many files as you wanted, and then just drag and drop here to your printer. And then we have some options here that you can configure. First of all, you can configure here your resolution, your loading, your media size, your ICC profile, the mode that you want to print, the quality, and the action. And then you can configure here. Here is the first setup, and you can, as you can set up here, just the basic thing, like I want to stretch the image for 400%, for example. I can stretch it here too, can resize it here. I can type a width or a height here, doesn't matter. I can mirror the image here. I can put it one by one, means 100% of the size again, makes your life easier, or here we are. Or you can here keep the ratio if you don't want the image to get out of proportions. If you want it, just click it here. Here you center the image, and here is the orientation. You can select the orientation that you want here. So this is the basic tools. Here we have our template. So if you want to print, for example, if you have all the files that you do, you just have an as a proof, A4 proof. So you just set up here a template, then you choose it like an A4 image, for example, and then if you wanted to resize it to A4, just click here, easier. Then you don't want it to do it manually. So this is our first features. Then we can have, then we can put the marks here, any crop marks, trimmer marks, like photobo marks, for example. Caldera inserts the photobo marks for you here. Annotations is a free text, so you can text anything here, and it will appear here on the bottom of the file. So as you type it, it appears here. So it's just a free text. Here we have the optical code, which is our QR code. You can add QR codes, any QR codes that you want. Just type the address, the web address of your company or your name, doesn't matter. Or here, just right-click it and put a file name, for example, and then it creates a QR code for file name. Further in front, you can also search that. You can keep that when you integrate. Caldera is easily integrated to any MIS system, and then you can locate this file. Imagine if you were printing 1,000 banners and one of them are defected and not printed well, then you can scan the code and find out which one is that one, So it's easily, you can use a QR code here. You can add grommet marks, for an example. So we can add grommet marks all around the image, all around the banner here, for an example. And here's the size of the mark, and the shape. It will be a circle, a square, or a cross. And then the space between the marks. You can have like 2 inches, or here's 50 millimeters. So it will do a mark from every 50 to 50 millimeters all around the banner. And you can save that template. So anytime that you want that the full banner, for example, just load your grommet marks and will be it. You don't need to do it every time again. The control strip is a very good control method that we use in our management, in our ICC profile maker, in Easy Media. Once you created a profile, you can certify your profile if your profile attends to any of the standards, like FOGRA, like G7, GRACOL. So you save that information, and then here you can print a mark here, and you can scan it. Imagine if you are doing 1,000 banners, and you can scan it, the first one, and Caldera will check if it's still in conformity to your standard, and we'll say, okay, you're okay, good, continue. And then in 100 banner, you do it again, and it shows you, okay, you are still good. So you can control the quality of your production from 10,000 banners to know that all of 10,000 banners won't have a color change. So this is for the marks. The step and repeat, which is allow us to repeat the same file again, over and over again. And we can also do true shape nesting. So we can do it by the counter. Once the file has a counter inside, Caldera knows that. And then you do by the counter, and then it will do the nesting for you, taking in account the counter. So see now that we're saving a lot of media because Caldera is doing the true shape nesting for you. And by this true shape nesting here, we can use that to go to cutting and then enable like a cutting mark with our optional called Grand Cut. We can add like a zoom marks, for an example. And then you can add zoom marks. We can have the barcode for the zoom, because Zoom reads barcode, also QR code for zoom. And then we can do automatic registration marks, which is something that our customers ask it for. Imagine if you're doing a PS board and you wanted to use all your board until the edge, but you cannot because normally the mark stays in the edge. Now, with automatic registration marks, we can remove the marks from the edge, and then we can put the marks inside our nesting. So you have your edge free for you to use the whole media. So this is also what we can do. And at colors here, we can do some color correction, which I don't normally encourage people to do it. If you have a good ICC profile, that should be enough. So you don't need to mess around too much with color. But if you wanted to, you can. So here's the basic configuration. Here at the range, we have just a configuration for each machine. So here we can control the vacuum of the machine, the heating of the machine, depending on each machine. So this is really for each of the machines. Here we have our spooler. And our spooler, you can see anything that's going on the RIP right now. You can print what is been printing, what is okay, and what is not okay. And you can see all the data, all the profile that you did, because sometimes you put it on a banner, and then the color doesn't look okay because you use a vinyl ICC. Then here you can see which ICC that you use, if it's correct or not. You can see the media usage. So here I use 100% of the media, means I didn't waste any media. But if I printed a small picture in a big media, you can see like you waste like 80% of the media. And then Caldera tells you that. And then here the printer, the history, the time, the date that you print. Cost proof shows you how many milliliters of each ink that you use. And then you can configure here how many costs 1 liter of your ink, and the square feet or square meter of your media, how much it costs. And then Caldera calculates for you here the cost of ink in media for this specific job. So this is how you can keep track of your files. if there's a cut or not, or a job ticket or not, you can see here too. So the spooler gives you an idea of the overall process. So here we have a very good tool that is a spot color manager that I'm going to show you. The spot color manager allows you to manage all spot colors at Caldera. So once you load a file that has spot colors like this one with Pantones here, and then you can see all the spot colors that the colors has. And once you know all the colors all the spot colors you have, here at details, you can see here, for example, for each spot color, you can see the input and the output. Input is the color that you want to print. Output is the color that you can print based on the profile that you selected. And then Caldera gives you the delta E of the color, which is the difference of the color that you can do and the color that you wanted to do. And until I would say 5%, you cannot see too much difference. Here is 60.9, so you know that you're going to print something different that you wanted to. But different from the other rips that you can, normally what you do is you go there and print a lot of blues. The pre-press guys print a lot of blues and gives to the production, and then you decide which blue you think is the best. And then you go back to the pre-press, and then the guy changes that value from CMYK into the file and sends you again. And then you print. But the problem with that is if you have this job every month, so the job happens again the next month, and then you don't remember what you did last month. And then you choose another blue, and then in next month you choose another blue, and then you end up doing different blues all over the year. So here, if you're not satisfied with that, you can change the CMYK values, or you can go to color books, and then Caldera generates for you the targets that you want. I don't want this orange, for an example. I don't want that one. I want only the blue. And then Caldera generates for you all the blues that you wanted from 4 to 4%, 15 samples per direction, 15 plus, 15 minus, and then you will end up with 92 blues. And then you decide which blue you think is the best. And then you have the CMYK value under each blue. And then you come here and you save it, the blue, like my blue. So every time that Caldera sees Pantone 293, it will automatically change for the blue, for my blue, the one that I think is the best. And then you can do this blue forever exactly the same. And if you're not satisfied yet, you still can go here to a spectrophotometer icon, and then you can scan any blue, the blue of your t-shirt. And then Caldera will tell you the delta E, and then you can also save that blue for my t-shirt's blue, and then you can do that blue forever. You won't have any problem. So if the customer comes to you with a sample, I want to do this color, you can scan it and see how far you are from that color. So the Spot Color Manage lets you do that. And here we have also very powerful tools here. One is our simulation profile. The simulation profile works like this. If you have like 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 machines, different technologies, you have UV, you have solvent, you have latex, and then you print the same job or same campaign in all of your machines because you need a rigid PS and then a rigid vinyl, you need also vinyl, and then you end up with 2 or 3 different Coca-Cola reds, for example. So here, what you can do is you can adjust all the gamuts. You will see which machine has the smallest gamut of all, and then you can come here and simulate that gamut and say, hey Caldera, I know that my UV machine normally has the smallest gamut, so let's do that and then simulate any machine that you want. PoloJet, for an example, okay, simulate with a 3M vinyl, and then okay. And then now you print it in your HP latex, simulating the DJI PoloJet. So now when you put it on your latex, the color will match. You can do better in your latex for sure, but here the idea is not to do better, it's to do the same job, exactly the same color. So to do that, you use simulation profile. And here we have an optional that's called Ink Performer. The Ink Performance allow you to save ink. In the medium level, you can choose the levels here. In the medium level, you can save an average of 20% of ink. What it does is just changing the colors. For example, we have a 90% black, and then it just removes the cyan, magenta, and yellow, and then changes by black. So that's how you end up saving some ink. And it does it automatically all over the job. And then when you print, you don't see too much difference. It's almost nothing, but you are saving 20% of ink. So this is a pretty awesome optional, the one that we sell the most. So here we are. We end up with the machines, and then we have also some nice features here. We have our Easy Media that allows you to create ICC profiles. And I will just stick to what we have new here, what we have special here, is the ability of create a profile in RGB. So here at Caldera, you can create a profile in RGB. When it comes to a new profile, you can choose CMYK or RGB. And what you gain by doing that in RGB is the feature that we have black mixing. Now you can decide the way you wanted to do the black, exactly. So here you go to black mixing and you go to the black chart, and then Caldera will print lots of blacks for you, changing like from 0 to 100, cyan, magenta, and yellow. It will make composition from 5 to 5 steps for all of these colors. So you end up with here 96 blacks, swatches of black. And then you decide which black is the best for you. So the problem is you don't end up more with a green black or a red black or a bluish black. You end up with a black because you decide which is the best black for you. So imagine if you decided 6% cyan, 40 magenta, and 0 yellow, for example. Then you come here and put 60 cyan, 40 magenta, and 0 yellow. And then Caldera will do this black for you. And then you can start doing that black from, for an example, 70%. And then you save all this area here, 25, 30%, which is your gray. And that you do the gray only with your black, meaning that you have a gray and not a reddish gray or a greenish gray. Then you solve the problem with your black being black and your gray being gray. So this is the new for the RGB workflow. Then we can do that in RGB too. Also, we have an optional for the standards, and then you can control compliance. You can see if the profile that you created attend to any of the standards. Here I choose FOGRA and ISO. So I didn't pass an ISO 7 because this is a very rigid standard for proof printers. Only proof printers can pass on it with special inks. So this profile only passes on FOGRA, almost passing on FOGRA PSD. Here and PSDC, it's okay. So you can do that. You can do that for G7 if you want it here. You can change it for G7, and then you can see if it goes okay with Gracol and those swaps. Then also you can check here if it's okay. No, it's not okay here in this specific one. And you can have also a report, and then it shows you where you failed. So you see you failed in this color, or this color, and you can generate a PDF of the one that you get approved, of course, to show your customer that you were approved on that specific standard. So that's pretty good. Here we have also compose tools that allows you to make composite images, and you can drag and drop this one or that one or that one, and then you put the size here that you wanted. So for an example, this one, and then you let Caldera arrange it for you. Then you can cut it. You can put manually marks from ESCO, wherever you want it. You can do also by TrueNet shaping here, and then you can generate it. You can create a composite document here. So here we go, and you can print a directly composite document. We have the tiling that allows you to do the tiling, the panels. So you decided the size that you want in here. You just drag and drop. You see how many columns you want it. I want like 3 columns, like 2 for an example. And then just drag and drop the file here. And then you divide it for you. And then you can resize it here, your tiles. You can take this tile here and you can duplicate it, and you can divide and split it in 4 if you want, and you can take this small tile and you can disable this one, because imagine that is a car and this is the window of the car, and then you don't want it to print on the window because you don't want to waste some ink. So you just disable it, doesn't create this tile at all. And then you can put grommet marks here, you can name each tile, you can put some margins, you can do the overlap in here that you wanted. Gap, if you have a gap between your panel, for an example, have an air conditioning and you can measure it and put here that you have a gap. The white also, sometimes it's tricky to glue banners, the tiles of a banners, because if you have a UV ink, you cannot glue it correctly. So you can add like a 2 millimeters or 2-inch white area, so you can glue it. So you can do it here. You can add crop marks. You can put a date, size, anything, and then you can create this poster. You can generate it. You can generate an assembly guide, which is the PDF that you can A4 size, and then it tells you all your tiles here, and then it tells you that this is the first tile, and it's the L1C1, line 1, column 1, and then shows you this is one of 19, so you know that you have 19 tiles, and then the size of that, so you can measure and checks if your tiles are okay. You can enable a print constraint, so it doesn't, in this case, you have like a 64-inch row, it doesn't allow you to create a tile bigger than your media, so you don't end up doing something wrong also. So this is the tiling, as you can see here. Also, we have the workflow that allows you create a workflow for if you have a lot of jobs that is exactly the same. You got repeated jobs, then you can create a workflows for that, and then you can also include in the workflow. You can include your tiles. For an example here, you can create a workflow for nesting. For an example, just for nesting, and then Caldera will nest all the files for you automatically. And you can also use your tiling here, just drag and drop here, for an example. Then you create a hot folder here. And then when you have your hot folder, Caldera, when you drag and drop the file there, Caldera automatically take this file and then it tiles up for you, nests it up automatically and sends to the machine, and machine starts to printing, for an example, without anyone touching the rib. Does everything automatically. So you can do the tiling, you can do everything automatically here with the workflows. What is new in Caldera 11 also, we have the new Adobe PPE, the newest of all, that lets you do a much better and much smoother shades and halftones with the new PPE 4 that's included in Caldera 11. Also allows you to have 127 now spot colors per file. In the previous version, you could only do 12. Now we can do much more. It's much faster. It's integrated with OpenCL, which is a technology that allows you to use everything that your processor and your memory of your computer can do it. So it's much faster. It comes with a concept of farm printing. And now you can have like lots of servers integrated ripping for you for different stations. So it's much faster, much better for you. So the version 11 is now on. You can download it, you can upgrade it. So this is a little bit of what we can do. We can also have controls that you can do. So in a Caldera web server, once you type the IP of the Caldera, you can see our web server. And then we have here the print board, for an example, which is included in version 10. And then you can see everything that your RIP is doing. So you can see all of your machines, everything that's been printing, the number of copies. If it's okay, it's green. If it's not, it's red. And then you have some statistics here for how many square foot of media you printed that day per machine. So you can see which machine printed more than each one. And you can have that in your tablet, in your mobile phone, wherever you are in the globe, you can see what your RIP is doing. Also, you have the cost view. That's an optional that lets you configure much more than only media and ink. Here, you can configure here, for an example, the kilowatt hour that you pay, how much you pay. You put your email here, and then you can configure the media, the cost of your media, and then at the printer, you will configure how many kilowatt hour that machine specific is using, the resolution, so you can set this average speed for each resolution, and then you can set the ink cost for each ink, and then Caldera calculates for you for each job how much your costs were in electricity costs, your ink costs, your media costs, your extra costs. You can add like proof cost per job, for example, then Caldera calculates for you, and this one you generate a PDF, and also you can export as a CSV, and then you can import it in Excel, for an example. So with that, you can do it too. So Caldera is a very powerful RIP. You can do a lot. You can create an RGB. You can control the marks. You can do true shape nesting. We can do RGB workflow. You can control as many printers as you want, including the cutters here. So we have the print standard verifier. We have the ink performer. So it's a pretty powerful RIP with a lot of features. Unfortunately, we have only half an hour to talk about it, but I'll be glad to take your questions if you have some. So it's back to you, Bob. You can have.
All right. Well, thank you, Bruno. That was great information. At this time, I would like to open up the group for questions. Please take a moment now to type your questions into the chat box. While we wait for the questions to appear, I would once again like to thank Bruno for sharing this great information with all of our attendees. I'm sure that everyone now has a better understanding of how Caldera can help them streamline their business. I'd also like to take a moment to talk a little bit about IT supplies. Before we get to the questions, I just want to let you know that IT Supplies has everything to help you make the perfect print. Our printer lineup includes latex and flatbed printers by HP, solvent printers by Epson, and aqueous printers by HP, Canon, and Epson. We also have dye sublimation and DTG by Epson. Other products include color measurement equipment and profiling equipment by X-Rite, Barbieri, and Tashcon, as well as Light Boosts by GTI and Used. As a thank you for those who are attending this webinar, we'd like to offer you a limited time offer for color measurement equipment by X-Rite. Now this has been matched up with the Caldera software. Caldera actually does have their own profiling solution, their own color engine that's internal. So here we have specials on the i1 Basic, now bundled with Caldera or an upgrade for $9.99. The same with the I/O table. And then we also have the i1 Display Pro. Now that does not actually profile paper, but it is good for profiling your monitor. Now let's get to the questions. The first question I have is your RIP good for dye sublimation printers and specifically for the F6200?
Yes, yes, we are specifically. Also, the RGB workflow was designed for the textile companies because they have a big problem on doing gray and black. So yes, we have the driver. Caldera has more than 1,000 drivers now, so we sure support that, no problem.
Excellent. Another question from a customer is that they have 14 plotters using hot folders. How many servers and licenses would they need for optimal speed?
Well, that's a very good question. I have also here one of my customers that has 14 machines, and depending on the workflow that you have, how many jobs you have, so per day. But in this case, he has changing to the third software. He has 4 visual users, which for them it's okay. So he has 1 Caldera master and 4 visual users, and all that's whipping to 3 servers. So they have 3 servers only for processing jobs, 4 visual users to control all the production. So that depends on how is his workflow. If he has a lot of jobs on those machines, I would recommend for them to have 3 or maybe 4 visual users. And then this is one very good thing of Caldera. Also, you can add, it's very flexible. You can add on demand. So if you now demand another server, another one, you can use it. Another one, and it will cost you nothing, only the visual users. So what he needs to do is think about how many stations do I need. I need 2, 3, okay, 3 visual users. Plus the servers you can add on demand, it won't cost you anything. So I would start with 2 and then keep growing if he needs more.
Excellent. And then another question that we had are what common measurement devices do you support? Obviously, I
Well,
have one.
yes, we support X-Rite measurement tools. We support Barbieri. We also distribute Barbieri tools. So the most common ones in the market, we support a grid tag, and we have support for all of them. So we have a bunch of spectrums from Barbieri, X-Rite, grid tag. So this is definitely not a problem at all.
Yep, and now that GridTag's part of X-Rite, so there's the X-Rite solution, and then IT Supplies. One of the things that I do want to highlight here has joined forces with colorHQ.com. So we're now offering more knowledge and training when it comes to color management. So our recently expanded offerings do include on-site color management and G7 certification. Uh, we're also at now a Barbieri LFP and Barbieri Technology Center. So anybody who's interested beyond X-ray into the Barbieri, which is more designed for the textile industry, we certainly have all of the color measurement equipment that would fit the needs that you may have. So that was it for the questions. So, and thus, I guess concludes our first joint webinar between Caldera and IT Supplies. I want to thank Bruno for helping to coordinate this event. I hope that everyone will walk away from this webinar more knowledgeable about Caldera and the benefits that it can provide each user. Please don't forget to contact your IT Supplies representative about the fantastic savings that we now have available to you through the end of the month. Thank you to all our attendees. You have been tremendous, and we hope that you will join us again tomorrow as we continue this webinar series. Take care and have a great day.